Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 1 hour early edition of Sports Scope. I'll tell you, folks, I'm glad that normally I do the program at 7 p.m. Central Time instead of 6 p.m. Central Time because I just didn't quite get enough of the information together that I wanted to get to today. So it'll probably be a little bit shorter of a show. I'm still balancing the full-time job, but I'll say this. 5-0 last weekend in my picks. I like Tampa tonight. They will play in about 1 hour from now. Well, technically, you want to get technical, an hour and 15 minutes from now. I hope everybody's enjoying their holiday. It's being more recognized as a holiday this year. I noticed Martin Luther King Day. I've always enjoyed those NBA games that come on MLK Day, for instance, the Memphis Grizzlies in Phoenix, they're playing right now. Good fluid game there out of Memphis. That's kind of a tradition now. With Martin Luther King Day, they have the NBA games on here, and of course we've got a Monday night football game on tonight. Like I said, Pickles, I picked Tampa to win this game. Now I'm 5-0. I don't think I've ever been 5-0 in opening wild card weekend, but we'll see. We'll see how it. Hopefully 6. But hey, I just call them like I see them. I pick them the way I see it. By studying injury reports, trends, and how well a team's playing, how they match up, and whatnot. So I will see you all back here in about a minute 19. Get this break out of the way. We'll hit the ground running. There's some news coming out about Jim Harbaugh this afternoon. I'll talk about Brandon Staley, the LA Chargers, Kirk Cousins, that particular game. I didn't even get to. There's some drama brewing in Baltimore. Haven't got to that. I'll probably get to that tomorrow. But stand by, folks. We'll get our first break out of the way here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why Sports Scope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is Sports Scope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Now I'm back live here. Let me say this before I go into this opening monologue. I really like my teams, my football teams, to be in the NFL, to be physical for one thing, and have balanced on their team. You need balance in life, and I found that out the hard way. But you need balance on your team. You can't be all the way offensive. You can't be all the way defensive. We've seen that when you're Minnesota all the way offensive, and you've seen that when you're all the way defensive in Baltimore. You need that counterbalance. But from what I've seen this weekend, an offensive-minded head coach, Brian Daboll, took a guy, Daniel Jones, who the team didn't even decide to pick up their 5th-round option. And Jones wins a big road game over a Minnesota team that only had 1 home loss all season. Then you have a Brock Purdy guy, and the stats on him are simply unbelievable, okay? You got a Brock Purdy who led all, and I know we got a game tonight, but over the weekend, he led all quarterback rating of all quarterbacks. Here at NFL CBS put this out. Highest passer rating this postseason over the weekend. It was not Joe Burrow. It was not Josh Allen. It was Brock Purdy, 131.5, followed by Daniel Jones, a guy I just mentioned, followed by at 114.1, Kirk Cousins, 112.9. Then you get Joe Burrow at 99.6. Now, Burrow, mind you, he's playing on a decimated offensive line, and they got more decimated as the game went along. Probably one of the better defenses in the league. Some can say front, middle, and back, probably the best defense in the league. You can make those arguments for the Baltimore Ravens. But, so he takes, Daniel Jones. Team didn't even want to pick up his 5th-year option. Now we're talking about Adam Schefter, franchise money, franchise tag, by the way, which is $45 million this year, Carlos. And then you got a guy that is had, like I just read, 130-something passer rating. He was a 7th-round draft. He was Mr. Irrelevant in Brock Purdy. And then you got a guy like Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick overall. Even Joe Burrow, number 1 pick overall. This is my thing, offensive-minded head coaches. And I'm not an offensive-minded head coach guy, but I have to call a spade when I see it, okay? Miami takes a rookie, Skylar Thompson, with 3 career starts, multiple offensive line injuries, lead running back out, Raheem Mostert. This team's down 17-0 in Buffalo, arguably the best team in football, my best team. And they actually get up by 4 in the 4th quarter. And with nobody. Just Skylar Thompson, offensive-minded head coach. Then you have, that defense. They stripped Josh Allen because the Bills aren't balanced enough to finish games. So they finally give the ball to the running back, and then they barely get that 10-yard run, and everybody in Buffalo's holding their breath, and I'm holding my breath. Do you really want to see Miami in the next round? Really, folks? Or do you want to see Buffalo and Cincinnati, which is probably going to be the game of the week? I'm predicting it now. Buffalo, Cincinnati at Buffalo. It's going to be a barn burner. I can't wait. But they can't run the ball. I mean, when they do, they don't stick with it. So that's a defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott. And I know they won. And I know they had a 17-point lead. They should have buried Miami. They refused to run the ball. Colin Cowherd calls them Mike Tyson. They got the Mike Tyson quality. They want to knock you out. They have no jab. They have no footwork. They're no Ali, And his guy is as talented as Josh Allen. And it's so much that's happened to this team. By the way, their radio announcer, I forgot to mention this the other week. Talking about a team that snake bit. Their radio announcer had a stroke 2 weeks ago, just after the Damar Hamlin heart attack on the field. Then I mentioned the fact that the Bills had a snowstorm, 2 snowstorms. One of them they already couldn't even play the game. They had to go to Detroit. But you see these defensive-minded head coaches finding ways to lose game. I mean, geez, Brandon Staley. I was reading this, guys. The head coach of the L.A. Chargers, coming into this season, the L.A. Chargers had the 3rd, according to Pro Football Focus, they had the 3rd best roster in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus, player for player. Justin Herbert rated as a much higher passer than a Trevor Lawrence. Okay. They blew a 27-point lead with all those Pro Bowlers on that team. You know, with Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel, dad was a Pro Bowler. You know, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Everett at tight end. They didn't have Mike Evans. You got Keenan Allen, probably the best route runner, arguably in the whole league, guys. And they blew a 27-point lead. Defensive-minded head coaches. And guys, I've always been against this. I want my teams to get stops. I do not believe in playing vanilla football. I'd much rather have a defensive mind in the past. But the truth be told, that you seeing the wonders that these offensive-minded head coaches have done this season with the rules to the quarterbacks, with the schemes. You look at what Andy Reid's doing right now with Patrick Mahomes. You look at what Peterson's doing with Trevor Lawrence, a guy who people were discussing whether he was a bust or not. You know, you look at what a guy like Sean McVay did with Jared Goff, another guy who worked with Jeff Fisher, who we thought was a bust. And all this is true. You know, it is what it is. But Jacksonville has one of the worst secondaries in all of football. Now, I called for this win because I know this guy's not a good coach. You know, I predicted this. I didn't predict they'd come down 27-0 in Jacksonville. But I said, you know, I like their pass rush. I like Peterson over Staley. Peterson's got a ring in his pocket. Staley don't have anything. You know, but the Jaguars had the 28th ranked roster coming into this season. There's only 32 teams, and they beat offensive-minded head coach. Offensive-minded head coach, and then trust me, I understand guys like Mike Tomlin and his rings. Bill Belichick's the best ever. Nick Saban's the best ever in college. I get that. But if you do like a statistical study of the teams that are winning now versus the teams who are struggling, they have those offensive-minded head coaches. You know, my only problem is lack of physical. Now, of course, 49ers are only one that's bucked that trend of offensive-minded head coaches and teams not being physical enough. I thought Saquon Barkley should have got the ball more. And I think that they would have probably won more easily with the Giants there. You know, I think they would have won more easily. But that being said, it is what it is. The writing's on the wall. I can't go against it. I can't argue with people who have advocated for offensive-minded head coaches over the years. Hey, it is what it is. I just like I said, what I like to do. I don't want to be narrative guy. I just like to get it right. I like to call balls and strikes exactly the way I see it. You know, take the biases out, take previous opinions out. I like to look at the data and say what it is. I don't have no agenda like some of these politicians do. No preconceived agenda, no matter what the fact. Those are the facts. Brian DeBall took a fifth-year guy that was considered a major bust. And that, you know what? I'm leaning. I know it's Tuesday. It's Monday. It's early. We haven't got the injury report. But I'm leaning picking the Giants to beat Philadelphia, who looked unbeatable 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago, right? Right. So it's the way of the world right now. It's the way of the world. Okay. Let's see. Let me make sure. So the Chargers. You know, Adam Schefter saying, going back to Brandon Staley and a defensive-minded head coach, Adam Schefter saying his job is safe for now. Also, reports are that the Saints, I mentioned that would be the perfect fit. Sean Payton, they don't lose Sunday. They advance the Saturday. Saturday night, when the Chargers play the Jacksonville Jaguars, they don't lose that game with Sean Payton coaching. They're going to keep their foot on the gas. He's going to get a competent defensive coordinator. They may do some plays that you're not used to seeing with all these crazy, and that's what Sean Payton does, these crazy substitutions and situations. And you put a guy like Sean Payton, who has a quarterback on a rookie salary cap, I said, and that's what a lot of people's not realizing is that another big reason why that the Saints did not win the last few years when they were a play away in 2018 to get back to the Super Bowl because of a bad call is because of Drew Brees' contract, because he did not want to take a penny less. He didn't want to take any kind of negotiation. He didn't want to take any kind of incentives. I know he's got kids and all, but that's why he's just got one ring on his hand. But that being said, you put Sean Payton with that roster, with that quarterback, when that defense, that running back, are you kidding me? Yeah, they win. They win. But quite frankly, they're not even playing that game because they're beating out the Chargers. They're beating out the Chargers because they got a better roster there, or they're beating out Kansas City since they got a better roster there, and they're having the home game, okay? But that's not the case. But going back to those reports that Adam Schefter says, and like I said, all reports are that Staley's safe. They're going to do the coordinator thing. I talked to former Dallas Cowboy Jim Jeffcoat. He says the Spanos family's too cheap. They don't want to pay for another coach right now. He said that's his opinion. I mean, it's the coach, obviously. He's defensive minded, plus he's young, and he's too indecisive. He's way too indecisive at what's he want to do. But anyways, so they're saying he's safe, and there are also reports are Schefter saying that the Saints want a mid to late first round pick. Now, do you want to balk at that? If you're the Chargers, the LA Chargers have pass rusher, check, Joey Bosa. Quarterback, check, Justin Herbert. Left tackle, Rashawn Slater. He wasn't playing last week, but check. Lead corner, Asante Samuel Jr. Check. What do you have? 2 or 3 interceptions last Saturday night. Okay. So why not give a 20-something pick for Sean Payton? That's all you need, coaching. Get the last check, baby. Get the last check. All right. The guy, he wants to rest his starters in all preseason games, but then he wants to play them all in a meaningless Denver game. Mike Williams gets hurt. And of course, they go home losers, giving up a 27-point lead. So, hey, look, I don't care what the Chargers do. Not a fan of the team. Just you could see the idiot. You could see why certain teams do not have rings, and you see other organizations while they've got 5 and 6. Pittsburghs of the world have their multiple rings. You see why Dallas has their multiple rings prior to Jerry Jones's latest deal there. But that being said, this story broke late. This particular story, guys, broke late here. Jim Harbaugh now says he's staying at Michigan. I think you call it a hunch. I know there's multiple motives of why these coaches want to look at other jobs, perhaps, that are in college. There's multiple motives here. Number one, can you get something that is more enthusiastic, that is more of a challenge for you, just another opportunity? Maybe you felt like you've kind of hit your plateau, and that's it. You're not going any higher in the job you're at. I think that's part of it with Jim Harbaugh. Another part is lack of respect. The guy takes the pay cut, rightfully so. Michigan, he was getting destroyed by Ohio State for years. 2020, take the pay cut. Then he wins 2 straight over Ohio State. Then they're in the playoff 2 straight. Now they 2 straight exits. I see that angle. All right. Money, just money in general, big money, possibly up to $20 million to take the Denver Bronco job. That's a motivation. But now it's saying that Jim Harbaugh, he's saying he's staying in Michigan. All right. And I noticed that after that Charger job, what came out about that, now he's staying. So I think a lot of guys were thinking about looking at that Charger job, And the idea of him, whatever happens tonight, will the Dallas Cowboys lose or not? Jim don't think that they're going to fire Jim. He's going to fire Mike McCarthy. And someone mentioned, what about Jim Harbaugh? I mean, that wouldn't last not even a season with Jerry Jones. But so, and then I think Jim Harbaugh, he interviewed with Carolina. I don't think he wants to work for this David Tepper guy. I think that guy's impatient, and they don't really have a lot of draft capital. Their cap is not in great shape. It's not terrible shape, but it's not in great shape. Sam Darnold is just an average at best talent, pretty good athlete. Maybe he can be molded. But my main thing about that is I'm starting to get a sense people don't want to work with this David Tepper guy. I think they think he's too. He may be a meddler and not act like he's a meddler, but I think he may be a meddler. That's the early indication. I'm not reading this. I'm just kind of judging by the way people are walking away from that gig. No establishment guys. This guy's got a lot of money, David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. But that's what I'm getting. And then I'm hearing that the Denver jobs has got the Walmart family there, and they've got two different people speaking. I'm starting to get the vibe that they've got too much chain of command there. They got too many levels of management. That's very corporate, retail store manager, general supervisor store. He don't like that. He wants to deal with one guy, and that's what I don't think Sean Payton will take that job. But there's something with that structure. That's what I'm hearing from Denver. The structure there. No, I don't need a bunch of I was watching the movie Office Space, a classic 1990 hit. And the guy says the movie was about it was a company downsizing and dealing with typical corporate America and call centers and all that. The guy says, I got 7 bosses, Bob. And then the guys are they're supposed to be interviewing him to downsize, which means lay people off. He's like, I got 7 bosses, Bob. Like, what? And the guy's like, yeah, that's too many bosses. I don't know who to answer to. So that's my thing about Carolina. Denver, that's going to be a bad sell for the strong, independent-minded alpha male coaches who know they can win. They just want people to get out of their way. Now, you do have to push back some, but you can't give a guy like that too much power. As far as personnel is concerned, we saw that could be a disaster, but you kind of want to get out of his way, let him do his thing as far as who to start, who not to, the type of player he wants, and all that good stuff. So I don't think he liked the structure of Denver, and he did not like I don't think he cares for the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and he wants a bigger raise at Michigan. All that in one. So I thought it could have worked with Russell Wilson on paper. I love their skilled players, Jerry Jeudy, Sutton there, and they've got a really good running back. They got hurt this year, be back next year. He's on a rookie contract. Excellent defense, top 5 in most categories, very close to the 49er level of a defense. And I think he could have did something with Russell Wilson. I don't think the guy's washed up. I think he just had a terrible coach, But that news broke today about him. And let's see. Let's go back to that. And there's a lot more stories, guys, I want to get to. I just didn't get to. I didn't get time to get to them today. I'm starting the show an hour early. I know this is a big game. But this is what Harbaugh says. He says, I love the relationships I have at Michigan, coaches, staff, families, administration, president, Santa Uno, and especially the players and their families. My heart's at the university. And I once heard a wise man say, don't try to out happy, go blue. And then I looked at their schedule for next year. They got East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Nebraska, or Bowling Green, Rutgers. They don't play a good game until week 5. Pickles. I mean, East Carolina. So you're not going to know what you got in Michigan until October, perhaps. At Nebraska. Now, Nebraska's got Matt Rule. You could turn around a college team here real quick here. Then at Minnesota, then later on at Michigan State, then at Penn State. But they got Ohio State at home. J.J. McCartney, 5-star quarterback there. Yeah. And a lot of people were excited about that. But anyways, getting back to the state. So that's the Harbaugh thing. Kind of fishy the way he makes that announcement today. After, I think a lot of these coaches were bucking for that Charger job. I really do. Peyton and Harbaugh were both looking to work with a guy like Justin Herbert. I think that was the top job on the market, and very good general manager there. But apparently, maybe the owner just don't want to pay up. Maybe, and I've read that the owner has had issues with his sister. Maybe that's something, but you just hate to see a really good situation like where you got quarterback, pass rusher, really good roster. Not a like I said, a roster. They're number 3 in the if all Pro Football Focus, just kind of get to waste and not use Justin Herbert's good years to have this team playing in Super Bowls, AFC Championship, divisional round, and just have them throw away lead after lead after lead and just be mismanaging, not molding a great talent what a Herbert is. But hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Now, Pickles says, let's go back to the top here, guys. Kind of got, Pickles likes Cowboys 25-23, still staying with that. Carlos says a lot of mediocre NFL teams. Yeah, it's a lot of mediocre teams. The defensive-minded head coaches are losing. The offensive-minded head coaches are winning. Don't like to admit that. I've really liked the more physical teams in the past. The 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, they're an outlier. They are physical. They do have a good defense. They're a team that can win the Super Bowl. If not this year, they're going to be in it this year, in potentially in the Super Bowl. Within the next few years, I think that what they're seeing right now with this Brock Purdy guy, they're probably, even after one game, they're probably going to try to trade Trey Lance. We already know Garoppolo's gone. Try to get something for Trey Lance to salvage that. And now, mind you, they're starting over with the rookie quarterback, so they can reset all this stuff. They can reset their salary cap. They have a big-time left tackle that's still under contract for the next few years. They have their main receiver in Deebo Samuel. Now, the running back, he's probably a rental, Christian McCaffrey. But, your pass rushers, your outside guys, they may lose their defensive coordinator, but they're pretty well set. You keep that quarterback there on that rookie deal, you have a shot to get that ring, and I think the guy's very close. Everybody trying to crown Daniel Jones. Come on, man. Yeah, and Daniel Jones, that's a good transition there, and it goes to the coaching. That tells you how good a job that Brian DeBall's done. Maybe this is fool's gold. The league may not be hip to DeBall's scheme this year as a head coach. They will be more next year as you get more film on what he's doing with a guy like a Daniel Jones. But now we're talking about franchising this guy. A franchise tag is $45 million. That is $45 million. And Carlos says Wink is a major reason why the team succeeds. I don't know what this guy's a pretty good coordinator. I'm not that impressed with Wink Martindale, whatever his name is. And they gave up 24 points. They're not shutting people out. People's kind of overrating this guy. Okay. That's a good transition here. Let me transition, and I'll go back to your questions, folks. So going back to that Minnesota game. So Kirk Cousins throws a 3-yard pass on a 4th and 8. Now, what kind of sense does that make, Pickles, Carlos? Scott throws a 3-yard pass on a 4th and 8. Game's on the line. What do? Let me throw a 3-yard. That is a guy who really don't care about winning. When a play like that, he's got his money, got his $100+ million. There's a reason why the Washington Commanders didn't want to pay him all that money. It's for play like that, you know. And this ties into a guy like a Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones on a rookie contract, 4-year rookie contract. You know, they've got some misses on their team, but they've also had some hits. Andrew Thomas is one of them, the left tackle. This Hodges guy, they picked him up out of nowhere. You know, this wide receiver, I think he was a guy off a waiver wire. Okay, they've got some hits there. I like Kayvon Thibodeaux. I like Leonard Williams. Okay. Adoree Jackson you see, he was back in this game. Another reason why I picked the Giants, because Adoree Jackson wasn't playing in the other game. He got beat some, but he did a pretty good job. This Martindale is a pretty good defensive coordinator. He's not all that. But you look at Kirk Cousins, okay? And you look at his $31 million cap hit. This team gave up, let's go back to Minnesota. They gave up 31 points at home. You know, when you give an average mid-level quarterback who was once criticized for not winning big games, he couldn't play primetime games. He was kind of like Andy Dalton, you know. And you give him that top 10 or better money, what are you going to have on the other side of the ball? You know what Minnesota's defense is this year? Total defense, guys. 31st in the league. 31st in the league. And some of those players were great back in the day. Patrick Peterson. He's still decent, but he was a great corner at one time. You know, but when you pay a guy like Kirk Cousins over $30 million, by the way, so the cap number is 208 this year. So it's over that 12.5%, that 12.6. It's going to go to 222 next year. And the franchise tag is going to be $45 million. But when you give a guy like Kirk Cousins this money, you got the 31st ranked defense in the league. Remember a few years ago when this team went to the NFC Championship game, 2017, when they're paying $20 million for 2 quarterbacks for Casey Keenum and Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford, we know about Sam Bradford, Minnesota Vikings I'm talking about here, who got hurt early in the season that year. Okay. Once he goes out, Casey Keenum comes in with $2 million. Well, that defense was ranked 1st in the league. Okay. So that defense is ranked 1st because you're paying 2 quarterbacks $10 million less than 1 quarterback. You see what I'm getting at here? And it's not the fact that I don't want to see these guys get paid. And even if you're a great quarterback, I just mentioned, if you pay a guy, even a guy like a Drew Brees, if he's not wanting to take some kind of incentive to get that cap number down every year so you can get another pass rush, so you can get that additional corner, so you can get that linebacker can cover sideline to sideline, you know, maybe add another tight end in there. So you can get all these things. So you are playing deep into January. So you are playing in February, you know. But if he has to have it all now, if he has to have it all for, especially a guy like Kirk Cousins, a happy-go-lucky, what is it? There is not that much difference between Cousins and Matt Ryan. I've been saying this the whole time. I've just been saying it the whole time. And it kills me to pay these guys that kind of money. It just absolutely kills me. And especially when you've hit on a guy like a Justin Jefferson, you know, you've got a great running back there. You do have one pass rusher to Zadarius Smith. Okay. Osborne there. You've got a fair offensive line, not great, but fair, suitable, sustainable. But the defense is it's a mess. It's a total mess. They go up 41 points at Green Bay 2 weeks ago, But this goes to the guy who's on the winning side, Daniel Jones. Now, we're talking in Rappaport saying that they may re-sign him and Saquon Barkley. The franchise number is $45 million next year, Giant fans. Okay? You're going to pay, he's making what, $8 or $9 million? You're going to pay him $45 million franchise tag for Daniel Jones. Well, some of those veteran defensive guys that you got around Thibodeau, they're going to start falling off because the math don't add up. The cap for next year is $220 million. Well, what's 45 of 220, guys? I mean, it's well over 10%, right? Because that would be 25 million. That's practically 20%. That's over that 12 points. So you're not going to get to the Super Bowl next year if you franchise Daniel Jones. And I like Daniel Jones. I mean, I like him as a suitable quarterback. Now, if you want to pay this guy, extend him and say, and I don't know why more teams don't draw that line in the sand and say, listen, son, go make it somewhere else. You're going to be miserable. Trust me, you're going to be miserable, okay? But we will pay you $18 million, okay? We will guarantee you that. We'll guarantee you $18 million for 3 years, which is, what is it, 18, 36, 45. But we will incentivize you if you take so many snaps. We'll bring that up to 22, 24 if we win so many regular season games. We'll bring that up to 28 to 30. You get postseason. You start to get 32. You get another game in the postseason, 36. You get to the Super Bowl. We'll give you $45 million because most of that won't count against the cap. That won't count. Brady made $44 million last year, but he had like a $23 million cap hit. He's the best of all time. Now, do you think that Daniel Jones, even in living in East Rutherford, New Jersey, is he going to go broke making a salary of a minimum of $18 million? And that's what I tell him. Do you want to be happy and work with Brian DeBall? Do you want to have those guys on defense playing you? Or do you want to just make $35 million to $42 million? And maybe if your team gets lucky in the draft, you might get to the first round of the playoffs. And then if you have some injuries, like we all do, you'll probably be like the Rams are this year, where you have a Sean McVay contemplating retirement. So what makes this league great is because of the hard salary cap, because of the rookie structure, you have teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars who've had 2 number 1 overall picks, guys. They've had 2 number 1 overall picks in a row, and now they're in divisional championship round because of the rookie wage salary cap. And also you look at a guy who's playing Saturday, I think. Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes could have got more money. This guy's got a $500 million contract, but he's like, you know what? I want to keep Kelsey around. I want to have a decent defense around. So if you squeeze all that money out, don't complain, Aaron Rodgers, when you're sitting at home. Do not complain, quarterbacks, when you're sitting at home. All right? But for people to buy into this Daniel Jones hype, that's because he's making what he's making. And I tell people here in Nashville all the time, okay? Well, Ryan Tannehill, when he was making $7 million a year, the Titans were in the AFC Championship game. When he's making $38 million a year, he's out and hurt because they don't have any kind of depth on their offensive line. And his backups are getting the heck beat out of him. His number 1 receivers with the Philadelphia Eagles. His best blocking guard on the team, he's with the Buffalo Bills. Okay. So when you want this money, don't get depressed when things don't go right for you. And I do think that happiness is a big part of it. Albert Haynesworth, former Tennessee Titan, he said a few years ago, this guy got one of the biggest contracts of a tackle in history. It was the biggest defensive contract at the time, like 85 guaranteed million. And he says, I wish I would have stayed in Tennessee and took a little bit less, man. He said, man, I was really miserable up there. They put me in the wrong system. I wanted to play 4-3 where he's not taking on a double team every time. And they put me in the 3-4. And I did just, he didn't say this part, but he did what he wanted to do. He hung in there as long as he could to get all his guarantees. And then he totally melted in like we thought he would. I was talking about it with my dad. But when you want to break the bank, highest, and that's the same thing for receivers. You want that highest paid wide receiver. You will say, I want to be the best. I am the best. Nah, well, go on somewhere else then, man. We'll be all right. Tyreek Hill, you making $30 million. You doing all right? Yeah. Let's see how that works out for you. Yeah, you back home in Miami, right? Well, yeah, your quarterback's playing this weekend, and he's probably going to go again to another AFC championship game. So so this idea of paying him, and then even the thought of paying him. I like Barkley. He playing great yesterday. Love Barkley. Had him on fantasy. Won $9, guys. Won $9 on a fantasy game. Didn't use him enough. But the idea to extend him and pay him 15, 20 minutes, that is foolishness when you've got plenty of running backs in the draft. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. I remember the first year Edgerrin James left the Colts. And everybody's like, man, why are they letting him go? They're not going to win the Super Bowl now. They got so close, they just missed it. Vanderjagt just missed the field goal. General manager at the time, really good general manager. One of the foolish things that owner done was let this guy go. He goes out and he gets a guy named Joseph Addai, running back, first round out of LSU. Edgerrin James goes to Arizona somewhere, whatever these running backs go to end their career. A lot of players do to get the most money. So they get Joseph Addai, and what happens? You know, they get him on a rookie contract, and, hey, they win the Super Bowl. Yeah. So I don't understand why these teams – so I realized that it's not really about winning. It's just about selling jerseys, you know. But what you get here on this show, I'll just tell you the hard truth. It's nothing personal against Saquon Barkley. It's nothing personal against Daniel Jones. But what wins and what does not win? Okay? Overpaying for running backs and quarterbacks does not win. Overpaying anybody in this league, 12.6%. If anybody, you got to play close to that with the quarterback, you know, or maybe a edge rusher or a left tackle, I guess. I mean, I was kind of thrown off by the $20 million a year that Trent Williams is making, but that's at 10% though. You know, that's a left tackle for 49ers. They look great. You know. But that's what it takes. And offensive-minded head coaches, right now, I have to concede the fact that if I had my choice, I would go that direction. I would go that direction and try to get the best coordinator I can get. The best coordinator I can get. And not give up on defensive players, particularly cornerbacks and pass rushers. And I tell you guys, you see more and more on why I'm I'm getting a little bit more on even playing ground with my competition. Your Stephen A's, your Colin Cowherd, your anybody at Fox Sports, anybody at ESPN, or even NBC Sports, where you got Florio and all those guys. I'm not working 12 hours. I'm working 8 hours. I'm still at a disadvantage somewhat. But I'm 5-0 this weekend. What are they? You know, I'm 5-0 with no budget, just me. But I'm just telling you what I think a winner is. And my whole point is the value of cornerbacks. You get Adoree Jackson back, no 200 yards for Justin Jefferson. He don't shut him down. Marlon Humphrey goes out. Big play by Cincinnati. Cornerbacks are valuable. Okay. Pass rusher, valuable. Asante Samuel Jr., he did everything he could to help that team win. You know, quarterback, pass rusher, offensive-minded head coach. Don't pay your quarterback over 12.6%. If you pay him anything, if he's worthy of that, of your salary cap, and you'll have a winner. And get a competent head coach, and don't let your head coach be the general manager. You do that thing, you do that, you get rings. You get championships. You get dynasties. And in years you don't get that, you have stability. You're always in it. You're always in it every year. All the way up to the end. Because that's just what the data says, folks. That's what the data says. All right? But, you know, what is Minnesota going to do? I don't know. I don't think they know right now. I think they owe Kirk Cousins $36 million. They're probably stuck with him until they got somebody that can replace him. I would try to at least ask him to negotiate that. I know nobody wants to live up there and freeze to death. But you know, hey, it is what it is. It is what, and there's nothing new here on Sean Payton other than, you know, a lot of people's talking to him. He says he's talking to some people. Maybe he waits another few days before he accepts his job. The Saints said that they will bring the Saints said that they would welcome back Dennis Allen, but they haven't said nothing about Sean Payton. They still want draft picks. Payton still may be waiting. Maybe the owner thinks about. Now I've seen this, and I've said this last week after these games are going to happen, and I'm going to get to Baltimore tomorrow. I couldn't get enough information. I know that the players are ticked off about it, and I know that there is and I'll get more into this in tomorrow. There is conflicting information coming, opinions on how Lamar Jackson should have handled his situation. Michael Vick, who's made a lot of money in this league and won playoff games, something that Robert Griffin hasn't, said you put a brace on it and play through it. And Robert Griffin says, hey, yeah, I put the brace on, and look what happened to me in my game. Well, no, your deal was you didn't want to work hard enough. You wanted to get all that TV money, Robert Griffin, and you flamed out after that injury. Michael Vick, now, he had his troubles too, but it wasn't because of his work ethic. That being said, hey, I'll get into that one tomorrow. And again, I'm a balls and strikes guy. When it comes to the Ravens, they got the defense there. Something's going to happen. Going back to my original thought, something's still going to happen. Something still may happen with the LA Chargers. Something still may happen with the Baltimore Ravens, I think. I think the Ravens will probably move off that offensive coordinator or Harbaugh or Lamar, all three. Something's going to pop there in my prediction for the Ravens, and it might not be this week. It may be the week before the Super Bowl. A lot of stuff happens the week before the Super Bowl. Now, I've mentioned this before. I thought Jeff Fisher was fine with the Titans one year, and I went to Florida with my dad, and the week before the Super Bowl, because it was an off week, he's knocking on my hotel door, saying, "Hey man, I just heard Jeff Fisher got fired." What? The season's been over with for weeks. You start talking about things, you start doing these exit interviews. Owner starts to stew things over, starts to crunch the numbers, said, nah, can't work, man. You won't have to part ways, you know. Whether they fired him or air quote parted ways, you know. Buffalo's too shaken. Yeah, Buffalo's shaken, definitely. Buffalo, still sticking with Buffalo. I just wish they run the ball better. But again, if Sean McDermott, if I'm the owner of the Bills, they don't get it done this year. I mean, the deal is to win it all, win the whole thing. They don't get it done this year, I move off McDermott and I get an offensive-minded head coach. I'm sorry to say, fix that running game. Fix that running game. This organization has been desperate to win a Super Bowl for over 35 years. Since the 4 Super Bowls we went in. And I will appreciate everything Sean McDermott did, how he handled the Damar Hamlin situation. The defense is solid for the most part. Gives up some big plays here and there. They've been solid, but at the end of the day, you got to win games, man. You got to win games. Now, they're still in it. Still got a good chance. Probably going to get Micah Hyde back in the next week or so. That's health at safety. Tre'Davious White's doing a good job there. Give Singletary and Cook the ball, and once you get up 2 scores, stop acting like you're down 4 scores and going 5 wide every other play. You know, and I like to throw the ball, but geez, you need to run. You need balance. Okay. Pickles, I can't not depend on the Bills, man. Buffalo seems to be snake bit. Chargers, Pickle says Chargers are married by poor coaching. Another techno geek. Yeah, a defensive techno geek, I would add. Chargers saddened, but okay, I read that comment. Pickles looms on to get fair value market. Harbaugh wanted to get more bang for more Michigan money, and they're going to pay him. And hey, man, if the guy gets me to the playoff again, he beats Ohio State 2 years in a row, give him some more money. I don't know how much more because you need to win a playoff game at this point. Head coaches make lousy general managers. Ain't that the truth, Mr. Pickles? 4 tune-up games for Michigan. Yeah, they got it. He looked at that schedule, Pickles, and then I thought to myself, man, if Michigan were in SEC with that type of schedule, they would get ripped down here. If Alabama played those type of, that would just, golly, 459 to nothing. Then you get a real challenge, somewhat. Playing at Nebraska, Minnesota just needed to keep scoring. Defense is crumbling. Yeah, it's hard to keep doing that. It's hard when the other team is pretty healthy like that, Carlos. That's why I called a game. Wink is a way better coach value than Daniel Jones at quarterback. Quarterback over defensive coordinator, but I do like coaches. Carlos says Giants need to let both players go. I definitely would let you let Barkley walk, but you got to have a replacement for Daniel Jones, and he can't cost $35 million. Okay? Maybe you draft a guy. I don't know. Can you get a guy from the draft? I doubt it. Doug Peterson got Trevor Lawrence coached up. Pickle says, yeah. We saw that. The guy was lanky. He telegraphs his throws. He's tripping over his own feet. He's wanting to take deep passes all the time. He's not wanting to shorten the routes. He don't drop down enough. All that got fixed this year. All that got fixed. Kudos to Doug Peterson. Honorable mention Coach of the Year. It's Brian DeBalls, though. And I wouldn't take too much from the coach from Philadelphia. He's done a good job. Owners want people in the seats. Yeah, and you got to win games. And Pickle says maybe Dan Quinn could get fired. Yeah, Dan Quinn. Okay, Dan Quinn, a guy who's won 1 game over 500, 1 game over 500, 2 losing seasons, off to an 0-6 start, fired. And people talking about this guy like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread because the defense is playing well. Maybe because he's coordinator material with the talent like Michael Parsons. Maybe. Maybe he was really good with Seattle too. Maybe. That's two samples of data. As a head coach, they got to the Super Bowl the second year. They lose Kyle Shanahan, then they fell off a cliff. So that's the proof of it. And Pickle says Lamar needs professional reputation. Lamar's got to look at the statistics on his rushing attempts versus other quarterbacks who rush that many times and how their careers are shortened. Do you want to develop as a passer? You want to continue doing what you're doing? That's fine. If you're going to do what you're going to do, take that $135 million guaranteed and roll what you got. You've got lifetime money anyways. At that point, if you want to develop as a passer, you need to develop as a passer, and that's what he's not doing. That's why the Baltimore don't want to give him the money. I would have moved off of him a couple of years ago. That's just me. But I'll get into Lamar Jackson tomorrow. Again, I like Tampa to win tonight. Could go the other way. Dallas plays better tonight. They play a lot better tonight. They're coming out strong. Yeah, it's yeah. I think with Mom being with Lamar, Bickle says if you rep yourself, you have a fool for a client. Yeah, you want an agent to help that the fees worth those type of situations. You want somebody with that legal background too. But anyways, again, like Tampa tonight, I'm 5-0. Can I be 6-0? We'll see. He called me Sam Rothstein, possibly 2022. If I pick 5-0 all every week like that, I wouldn't have any kind of day job. You would see this. You see the program from a fallacious mansion, but Dallas plays good. They play well tonight. My prediction: they're flying around. Brady figures them out at the very end. 27-24, something like that. Game-winning field goal. Ryan Suckup gets one last kick there, and Tampa moves on. And I want to say they will play at San Francisco next week, and that won't be as easy. Plus, Ron Jansen's going to be playing. I'm thinking he's going to play tonight. I know he's activated. That's their center they lost a while back. They got Thurston Wirfs back. I really like Tampa as far as the offensive lines. They're not going to run the ball. They didn't run the ball well last year. They didn't run the ball well their Super Bowl year, and they're not going to run the ball well tonight. A lot of short passes. They're going to be some 3-and-out. A lot of field positions. But you're playing with a guy also, Dak Prescott turns the ball over a lot too. Can't forget that. He's 15 interceptions in 12 games. But Jim Jeffcoat made a good point. Favre had 29 one year. But that's why Favre's only got, with his talent, he's only got one ring. Turned over the ball too much. But appreciate it there, Pickles. Guys, I'll be back normal time tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Time here on Sports Scope. Enjoy the game.